You know the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? As I pulled into the parking spot in front of our one-bedroom apartment building, which I shared with my wife, Elara, I found myself reflecting on our marriage. Was it slowly turning into a mess of rotten lemons, or was I just overthinking things? I got out of the car and grabbed the mail, mostly bills, ads, and a bunch addressed to occupant. I felt utterly drained, a familiar sensation after working 16-hour days, 4 times a week, and even on my supposed day off at the nearby fast food joint. The grind was necessary. We had bills to cover and were saving up for a house. Plus, I wanted to do something special for Elara for our 5th anniversary coming up. Elara did her part too, managing the house and working at a travel agency, though the pay wasn't great. My main job was 40 hours a week in customer service, constantly on the phone handling complaints and processing orders. It was tedious, but it paid well and had excellent benefits. I made $18 an hour, with monthly commissions and a biannual bonus based on company performance. My commission checks usually outstripped my hourly pay. On top of that, I put in hours at a fast food place, taking orders and managing transactions. It wasn't glamorous, but it offered a break from my usual routine. I've been keeping up this double life for nearly 2 years, and it's wearing me down. On the upside, our finances were stable, and we'd saved a nice chunk for a house down payment. I pulled in over $7,000 a month before taxes. My goal was to quit the second job once we were financially secure. After our upcoming anniversary cruise, I planned to reevaluate our finances. Because of my hectic schedule, Elara had been handling the bills for the past year, and she seemed to be managing fine. She had scored us tickets for a 5-day Caribbean cruise at a massive discount through her job. I decided to splurge and upgrade to a suite with a balcony and ocean view. I was really looking forward to some quality time alone with her. We both took our vacations at the same time, planning to leave after work tomorrow, which was Friday. Climbing the stairs to our apartment, I unlocked the door and walked into darkness, with nothing but the ticking clock on the wall breaking the silence. Odd, I thought. Elara didn't say she wouldn't be home. I dropped the mail on the table and flipped on the light. The place was as clean and tidy as usual, but something felt off. "Elara, I'm home," I called out, but there was no response. In the kitchen, there was no dinner waiting for me, which was unusual because she usually left me a plate in the fridge on nights I worked late. In the bedroom, the bed was neatly made, but Elara was nowhere to be seen. I pulled out my phone and tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. "Elara, it's Spencer," I said. "This is Spencer Allister. Where are you? I'm at the apartment. Call me." I hung up and sent a text, but still no response. I noticed several of her things missing from the closet. Where could she have gone? Did she leave me? I opened her dresser drawers and saw more items missing. In the bathroom, most of her toiletries were gone. Then I spotted an envelope on the counter, addressed to me in her shaky handwriting. I grabbed it and went to the living room to read her letter. The letter didn't start with "Dear Spencer," just Spencer, which already felt ominous. She wrote that she knew this would be hard for me to understand and that she expected me to be angry. She explained that she had been having an affair for the past several months and was now with her lover on the cruise we had planned for our anniversary. She mentioned our talks about having kids, but admitted she didn't want children with me. She acknowledged that I was a hard worker and a good provider, saying I would make a wonderful father to someone else's kids. She confessed that she had stopped taking contraception at her lover's request, so he could be the one to get her pregnant. She apologized for her cold words and assured me that her lover Jasper was a good man in every way. According to her, everyone at work knew about their relationship and supported their decision to leave together. The letter went on to say her colleagues thought I'd be a great father to the kids she planned to have with Jasper. She admitted she had fallen in love with Jasper, but said it wasn't the same kind of love she had for me. She compared her feelings for me to those of a close friend or sibling. Despite everything, she didn't want a divorce. She thought it would be best if we stayed married, so our combined insurance could cover her pregnancies, and I could raise Jasper's children. The letter outlined a new arrangement for the future. Jasper will be spending the night at our house. She suggested I find somewhere else to stay on those nights, maybe even get a third job to keep busy while they were together. She said our intimate relationship was over because Jasper insisted on exclusivity, and she no longer found me attractive. She warned that if I pursued a divorce, She would claim half of my paycheck, retirement benefits, and child support. She admitted that a part of her felt hurt too, but she and Jasper had decided to take the cruise early, using the tickets I had bought. They had blocked my number to avoid my calls and texts, planning to send me pictures and videos to show what I was missing. The letter ended with her saying she had to go because the taxi was waiting to take her to meet Jasper at the seaport, and they wanted a head start on their cruise. She had promised to contact me upon their return so I could pick her up. The letter expressed regret, but insisted that this was the way things had to be from now on. It was signed, "Your friend, Elara." I sat there in shock, the letter slipping from my grasp. Friend? What kind of friend would do this? With friends like Elara who needed enemies? Sure, things had felt off these past few months, but I chalked it up to my crazy schedule. That's why I splurged on that cruise. But the more I thought about that letter, the angrier I became. I ripped the ring off my finger and hurled it across the room. To hell with her and her ludicrous notions. If she thought I'd just sit back and accept this, she was out of her mind. I glanced at the clock, 3 a.m. With only 5 hours until my day job, I knew sleep would be scarce. As I tried to fall asleep, thoughts of her with this Jasper guy flooded my mind. Opting for the couch, I grabbed a pillow and an Afghan, too exhausted to stay awake. I drifted off, only to wake up the next day wondering why I was on the couch. Reality hit me like a ton of bricks as I remembered the previous night. Hoping for some kind of message that would make this all a bad joke, I checked my phone. No such luck. Dragging myself to the bathroom, I showered, dressed, and hastily grabbed a cup of coffee for the road. Trying to set aside personal problems at work proved nearly impossible, especially with others complaining about trivial issues. Colleagues noticed my distracted state, and after lunch, my supervisor Ophelia called me into her office, a sure sign something was up. She was genuinely concerned, motioning for me to close the door. Ophelia asked if everything was okay at home and suggested I consider quitting my fast food job since I already worked 2 jobs. After a moment, I decided to open up about my situation, trusting her due to her previous openness. I confessed that everything was not okay at home and handed her the letter Elara left. Ophelia read it, shaking her head as she finished. She empathetically told me that we needed me to have my head in the game at work. She mentioned that some colleagues had told her about my short-tempered and snippy behavior that morning. After reading the letter, she understood the challenges I was facing. Realizing I had vacation scheduled for the next week, she suggested I take the rest of the day off with comp time. She also offered to refer me to an attorney she used in her divorce, giving me a name and number. She mentioned she had been in a similar situation and encouraged me to call the attorney, saying Ophelia had recommended her. Grateful for the advice, I thanked her, and she urged me to take the next week to sort things out and come back with a clear mind. She added lightheartedly, "And remember, there are plenty of fish in the sea." I acknowledged her with, "I hear you, Ophelia," thanked her again, and then shut down my desk, informing my cube-mate that I would be back in a week or so. He waved as I left. In my car, I retrieved the note Ophelia provided and dialed the number. The receptionist at the law offices of Kensington and Bledo answered, and I requested to speak with Lorelei Kensington, mentioning that Ophelia Nightingale had recommended her. The receptionist placed me on hold and returned after a couple of minutes, informing me that Miss Kensington was in court that afternoon, but had an open slot at 4 p.m. I confirmed that would be perfect. After jotting down the address, I thanked the receptionist and ended the call. I realized I had enough time to visit the travel agency where Elara worked, hoping to intervene and maybe get a refund for our plans. Upon reaching the agency, parking the car and entering, the 4 women in the main office glanced up, their expressions hinting at their awareness of the situation. I approached the front desk where Jenna, the receptionist, sat. She greeted me, and I stated my intention to see Elara. Glancing around, Jenna informed me that Elara wasn't present that day. She handed me a large envelope, explaining that Elara had informed them I knew and asked her to give me the envelope if I came in. The other women wore smirks, leaving me uncertain about how much they knew. Opening the envelope, I was hit by Elara's scent, mixed with an unfamiliar odor. Inside, I found a pair of her soaking wet underwear, folded up. Disgusted, I used a pencil to inspect further and discovered her rings covered in a white, gooey substance, unmistakably Jasper's. At the bottom of the envelope, was a USB drive. Horrified, I confronted Jenna, who smirked as I looked around and noticed the other women doing the same. I asked if they found it funny, and Jenna, embarrassed, looked away. She explained that the thumb drive contained pictures and videos from a bon voyage party they had organized for Elara and Jasper the previous afternoon, with Elara suggesting I would enjoy them. An older woman emerged from the back and leaned against the front office wall, observing me. She informed me that Elara and Jasper had already left and that everyone at the agency was aware of their relationship. When I asked if they approved of it, she shrugged and asked what I wanted. I stated my desire for a refund, explaining that I had paid for the cruise and wanted my money back. Since I didn't have the tickets, she replied that the tickets were non-refundable and mentioned it was nice of me to let Elara put one in Jasper's name. I disputed that claim, asserting that what Elara did was fraudulent and insisted on getting my money back. She refused, saying it wouldn't happen. Frustrated, I declared that I would take legal action, suing the agency and everyone involved. As I turned to leave, Jenna stopped me, apologizing for the situation and explaining that Elara had led them to believe I approved of her actions. Jenna tried to persuade me to let Elara enjoy the cruise, suggesting there would be other chances for me. Intrigued about Jenna's personal life, I asked if she was married, to which she responded no. I shared the pain of being betrayed by someone who professed to love me and warned her about the potential heartbreak she might face someday. I made it clear how much I loathed Elara and left a brutal message for Jenna to relay. I told her to tell Elara that I despised her and never wanted to see her again, adding a shocking remark that I hoped she'd be alone forever. Jenna and the other women were visibly shocked, and I declared I'd see them all in court before storming out. With a couple of hours before my appointment with Lorelei, I parked in a shady spot at a nearby park and set my phone alarm for a short nap. Reflecting on the injustice of it all, I wondered if there was any fairness left in the world. The nap provided some relief, but my neck felt stiff and sore when I woke up. After sipping lukewarm coffee, I started the car. Upon reaching the building where Lorelei's office was located, I checked my appearance in the mirror. I looked haggard and worn out. Trying to tidy my hair, I grabbed Elara's letter and the envelope from Jenna before heading inside. Inside the office, a friendly blonde receptionist took my name and directed me to a seat, offering a cup of fresh coffee, which I gratefully accepted. A few minutes later, she led me to Lorelei's office and closed the door behind me. Lorelei Kensington, older than me but still quite attractive, stood up and extended her hand. I shook it as she greeted me warmly, suggesting I take a seat. I thanked her and sat down, telling her she could call me Spencer. She smiled slightly and encouraged me to call her Lorelei, then asked about the reason for my visit. I explained that I was looking to get a divorce. Lorelei asked why, and I told her my wife was cheating on me. To emphasize the seriousness, I handed her the letter Elara left. Lorelei read it, frowning, then handed it back and asked about the envelope. I passed it to her, warning her about its contents. She opened it, her face contorting from the unpleasant odor. After closing it, she handed it back and said she understood why I wanted a divorce. She asked what my goals were, and I said I wanted to make sure Elara faced consequences for her actions, especially since the travel agency had defrauded me of over $2,000. Lorelei explained that the family court system in our state prioritizes financial aspects over justice. She expressed gratitude for Ophelia's recommendation and said having no children made things simpler. I mentioned that we were renting a one-bedroom apartment and saving for a house. Lorelei noted that not having property to divide was one less thing to worry about. She asked about Elara's income, and I told her it was about the same as my base pay, around $18 an hour. Lorelei explained that I might have to provide financial support for a couple of years unless Elara remarried, and that we would likely have to split all assets, including retirement plans. She clarified that due to our state's no-fault divorce laws, the infidelity couldn't be mentioned in the papers, but might be useful in negotiations. When she asked about counseling, I said I hadn't considered it since I couldn't see a way past the betrayal. Lorelei mentioned that the court might still order counseling. I asked about the possibility of Elara bringing her lover into our apartment. Lorelei asked if Elara's name was on the lease, and I confirmed it was. She explained that unless there were threats of damage, I couldn't prevent Elara from inviting people into the apartment. Frustrated, I asked if there was any justice in this. Lorelei acknowledged that divorce is challenging, describing it as something you have to endure. I chuckled at her comment. She suggested that Elara might reconsider the marriage upon her return and proposed the idea of a legal separation to allow for a cooling-off period. If I still wanted a divorce after that, we could proceed. She also advised me to consider quitting my second job, as earning more money could lead to increased financial demands. She noted that I seemed to have been overextending myself. Expressing my frustration, I asked about getting a refund for the cruise. Lorelei assured me we could explore options to address that issue. We discussed the particulars, and Lorelei made notes as we talked. When we finished, she handed me a checklist of things to do, mostly dealing with the bank. I shook her hand and left, stopping at the front desk to leave a retainer on my way out. I still felt awful about the whole situation, but at least I was doing something about it. I considered quitting the second job since it was wearing me out. I decided to go in and talk to the manager tomorrow to give my notice. On the way home, I stopped at the bank and made the changes Lorelei suggested. I paid off the joint credit card Elara had and canceled it, then emptied out half of our joint accounts and put the money into a separate account I had set up for my bonuses and commissions. Elara didn't have access to that account, so I figured it was safe. I had planned to use that money for a house, but those plans were now out the window. I got home, grabbed the mail from the mailbox, then ate some leftover meatloaf Elara had made a few days earlier. She had a habit of cooking large dishes and freezing what we didn't eat for later. It took a while to thaw, but that was fine by me. I sat down with my dinner and sorted through the mail. It was mostly junk, advertisements and offers addressed to occupant or resident. But one piece stood out, a handwritten invitation with elegant calligraphy addressed to me personally from something called Valtieri Gallery. I almost tossed it out with the rest, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was an invitation to a private art showing. I wasn't sure if this was something Elara had signed me up for. She always tried to get me interested in the arts, though I rarely had time for such things with my busy work schedule. The invitation specified that I should be there at 9:30 a.m. sharp. As I stared at it, I felt an inexplicable pull to attend. Don't ask me why. I put the invitation on the refrigerator door with a magnet and decided to go. If nothing else, it might distract me from my problems for a bit. Determined to face the envelope Jenna had given me, I donned a pair of latex gloves and opened it, bracing myself against the unpleasant smell. I retrieved Elara's underwear, noticing the ring nestled in the wettest part, and placed them in a plastic sandwich bag, sealing it tightly. I wiped down the USB drive with disinfectant wipes, uncertain if it would help, but opting for caution given the enclosed items. Setting up my laptop, I inserted the drive, dreading what I might see. The folder contained photos of Elara with a man I assumed was Jasper, enjoying drinks and socializing with office friends. Jasper's hands were all over her in the photos, and the other girls, including their supervisor, were smiling and laughing. More pictures showed Elara undressed over a toilet bowl, with two girls, one of them Jenna, holding her underwear, which contained the rings I had placed on her finger almost 5 years ago. The final picture showed Elara, still undressed, waving at the camera with a smile, her underwear and rings beneath her. I had never felt so humiliated in my life. A wave of intense hatred surged through me. Exiting that folder, I found another with several video files. Reluctantly, I began to watch, focusing more on what they were saying than on what I was seeing. In the last video, Elara adjusted herself over the bowl as others brought in the underwear. She removed her rings as Jenna and another girl held out the underwear beneath her. They handed the rings to an older woman, who carefully placed them on the garment to prevent them from falling into the toilet. Jasper asked if she was ready, and Elara, looking directly into the camera, stated her intention to urinate on the rings and expressed her contempt for our marriage. She instructed one of the girls to bring an envelope with photos and videos for me, ensuring I'd receive it if I came by the next day. Jenna agreed, and Elara waved goodbye to me along with the others. Jasper turned to the camera, assuring that he would take care of Elara in my absence and making a derogatory comment about me paying for everything. The video ended, leaving me nauseated. I'm not typically a violent man, but at that moment, I wanted to annihilate them all with my bare hands. I buried my head in my hands, too shaken and angry to cry. All I wanted to do was lash out. I couldn't understand why she would do this to me. I had never cheated on her, never hurt her. All I did was work hard to build a good life for us. If she had just told me I was working too much, I would have cut back. But she didn't. A thought struck me, and I pulled up the travel agency's website. It was part of a much larger organization based out of New York, with offices across the country. I found the email addresses for the CEO and the chairman of the board. I wrote an email threatening a lawsuit and attached copies of the video, then sent it off. Looking around, I saw the pictures of Elara and me on the end tables and walls. I lost it and tore them all down, ripping her image out of everyone. I was looking for something else to destroy when the doorbell rang. Who could that be? Peering through the peephole, I saw Jenna with another woman from Elara's office. I couldn't remember her name at the moment. I opened the door and growled at them, causing them to jump back in shock. Jenna begged to talk, and I questioned their motives, expressing my reluctance to hear anything they had to say. When they asked if they could come inside, I pulled out my phone to start a voice recording, then let them in and sat down on the couch, demanding to know why they were there. When they asked for something to drink, I declined, urging them to get to the point and leave. Jenna exchanged nervous glances with the other woman before telling me she had talked to Elara earlier, who was very upset. I responded indifferently and sarcastically suggested they could make it up to me by drastic actions. They stared at me in shock, and Jenna protested that I couldn't mean such things, reminding me that Elara was my wife. In response, I handed her the letter Elara left for me. Jenna read it, then handed it back, apologizing. I accused them of being complicit in Elara's actions and criticized their behavior in the video. Jenna apologized again, saying Elara had misled them into thinking I was okay with it. Expressing my dissatisfaction, I told them it was time to leave. As they turned for the door, Jenna hesitated and suggested she could help me get over this. I dismissed the idea, emphasizing that I couldn't trust her, and urged them to leave and never return. After they left, I locked the door and sank into a chair, feeling a mix of rage and sorrow. I decided I needed a way to numb the pain, so I drove to the convenience store on the corner and bought a 6-pack of beer and a couple of packs of cigarettes. I had given up drinking and smoking when we got married, but tonight, I didn't care. Back at home, I sat on the balcony, drank the beer, and smoked cigarette after cigarette, trying to drown my anger and hurt. Eventually, I stumbled inside and collapsed into bed. The next morning, I woke up groggy and disoriented. I showered, brushed the foul taste of beer and cigarettes out of my mouth, and dressed. The sunlight coming through the window was way too bright, like it was mocking me. I decided to get up and face the day. First stop was the fast food joint to quit my second job. Steve, my manager, was a good guy and understood my situation. When I told him, he shook his head and said he'd find someone to cover my shifts. I thanked him and left, feeling a bit lighter. Next, I headed to the law office of Kensington and Bledo to meet Lorelei. The receptionist was friendly and showed me to the conference room. Lorelei was already there, looking over some papers. She smiled when she saw me. "Good to see you, Spencer," she said, pointing to a chair. "I've looked over everything you gave me, and I have a plan." She laid out the steps for the divorce and the complaint against the travel agency. Her confidence was reassuring, and for the first time since Elara left, I felt a bit of hope. We talked for a while, and she promised to keep me in the loop. Leaving the office, I felt a mix of relief and anger. It was going to be a tough road, but at least I wasn't alone. On my way home, I decided to stop by the Valtieri Gallery. The invitation had been on my mind, and I thought a distraction might be good. The gallery was small and elegant, filled with different artworks. As I walked in, a woman with dark hair and a calm presence came up to me. "Welcome to Valtieri Gallery. I'm Lydia Valtieri. How can I help you today?" I handed her the invitation. "I got this yesterday and thought I'd check it out." Lydia smiled warmly. "Ah, yes. We're having a private showing today. Please follow me." She led me to a room at the back, where several pieces of art were displayed. The room was peaceful, with soft music playing. As I wandered around, I felt a sense of calm. One painting caught my eye, a vibrant, abstract piece that seemed to move with energy. "That's one of my favorites," Lydia said, appearing beside me. "It's called Rebirth." "It's incredible," I admitted. "I can't explain it, but it speaks to me." Lydia nodded. "Art can do that. Sometimes it says what we can't." We talked for a while, and I opened up about my troubles. Lydia listened without judging, offering a sympathetic ear. By the time I left, I felt a bit lighter, like some of the weight had lifted. Weeks went by, and I settled into a new routine. Mornings at my customer service job, evenings with meetings with Lorelei, therapy, and visits to the Valtieri Gallery. Lydia and I became friends, and I found her presence comforting. She made the world seem a bit less harsh. One evening, as I was leaving the gallery, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Lorelei, asking me to call her. My heart pounded as I dialed her number. "Spencer, I have news," she said when she answered. "Elara got the divorce papers. She's not happy, but that's expected. There's more you need to know." "What is it?" I asked, bracing myself. "Jasper has a criminal record. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. This works in our favor." It felt like a punch to the gut. I suspected Jasper was bad news, but this confirmed it. "What does this mean for me?" "It strengthens our case," Lorelei explained. "We can argue Elara's association with him puts her in a bad position, especially since she's using your money. It could affect asset division and alimony." "Thank you, Lorelei," I said, feeling grateful. "I appreciate everything you're doing." After the call, I felt determined. Elara and Jasper's betrayal hurt deeply, but now I had a chance to fight back. I drove home with a sense of purpose, ready to face whatever came next. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself more and more at ease with my new routine. Each visit to the Valtieri Gallery was a respite from the chaos that had become my life. Lydia's presence was calming, and our conversations often left me with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. One morning I woke up to an email from Lorelei. She had attached some documents for me to review and sign. The divorce proceedings were moving faster than I had expected, and the discovery of Jasper's criminal record had tipped the scales in my favor. I signed the papers and sent them back, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. It was finally happening. I was reclaiming my life. After work, I decided to stop by the gallery. Lydia greeted me with her usual warm smile. "Spencer, it's good to see you. How are things?" "Better, actually. Lorelei says the divorce is moving along quickly. Jasper's criminal record really helped." "I'm glad to hear that," Lydia said, her eyes full of genuine concern. "You deserve some good news." We spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing. It was easy to lose track of time in Lydia's company. As I was about to leave, she handed me a small, wrapped package. "What's this?" I asked, surprised. "Just a little something for you," she said with a smile. "Open it when you get home." Curiosity piqued, I thanked her and headed back to my apartment. Once inside, I unwrapped the package to find a beautifully framed photograph of the rebirth painting. Attached was a note in Lydia's elegant handwriting, a reminder that every end is a new beginning, Lydia. I placed the photo on my nightstand, feeling a warmth spread through me. Lydia's kindness was a beacon in the storm of my life. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The following week, I received another call from Lorelei. "Spencer, we've got a court date," she said. "It's in 2 weeks. Are you ready?" "As ready as you'll ever be," I replied. "Thank you, Lorelei. I couldn't have done this without you." "You're welcome, Spencer. Stay strong, and we'll get through this." In the days leading up to the court date, I focused on my work and continued visiting the gallery. Lydia and I had become close friends, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations more and more. She had a way of making the world seem brighter, even on the darkest days. Finally, the day of the court hearing arrived. I dressed in my best suit, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. Lorelei met me at the courthouse, her presence reassuring. The hearing was intense. Elara and Jasper showed up, looking smug and confident. But as Lorelei presented our case, highlighting Jasper's criminal activities and Elara's betrayal, their expressions shifted. The judge seemed sympathetic to my situation and critical of their behavior. After what felt like an eternity, the judge ruled in my favor. The divorce was granted, and I was awarded the majority of our shared assets. Elara and Jasper were left to deal with the consequences of their actions. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Lorelei congratulated me and reminded me to stay in touch. As I drove home, I realized that this was the start of a new chapter in my life. That evening, I went to the gallery to see Lydia. She was waiting for me, her smile as warm as ever. "How did it go?" she asked. "It's over," I said, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. The judge ruled in my favor. I'm so happy for you, Spencer, Lydia said, giving me a hug. You deserve this fresh start. As we stood there, I felt a sense of hope for the first time in a long while. Lydia had been a constant source of support and encouragement, and I realized how much she meant to me. Lydia, I began, taking a deep breath. Would you like to have dinner with me sometime? I mean, as more than friends? Her eyes sparkled with surprise, and something else, something that looked a lot like happiness. I'd love that, Spencer. And just like that, I knew that my life was finally moving in the right direction. With Lydia by my side and the past behind me, I felt ready to embrace whatever the future held. The weeks after the court hearing were a whirlwind of changes. I focused on rebuilding my life, with Lydia becoming a bigger part of it. Our friendship blossomed into something more, and for the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely happy. One evening, as I was settling into my new normal, I received an unexpected email. It was from Jenna, Elara's former colleague at the travel agency. The subject line read, "Important information, please read." Intrigued, I opened it. "Spencer, I hope you're doing well. I've been feeling guilty about everything that happened, and I want to make things right. Attached is a video from the night of the Bon Voyage party. It might be useful. Sincerely, Jenna." I clicked on the attachment, and my heart raced as I watched. The video showed Elara and Jasper in a compromising position, clearly intoxicated and bragging about how they had manipulated me. Jasper laughed about his criminal exploits, and Elara admitted to embezzling money from the travel agency to fund their escapades. This was the break I needed. With this evidence, I contacted Lorelei immediately. She agreed that this video could open new legal avenues, not just for further financial restitution, but also potential criminal charges against Elara and Jasper. 2 days later, I met with Lorelei to discuss the next steps. We decided to send the video to the authorities and the travel agency's head office. I felt a surge of satisfaction, knowing that justice would be served. Weeks went by, and the fallout from the video was swift. The travel agency fired Elara and pressed charges against her and Jasper for embezzlement. The police launched an investigation into Jasper's other criminal activities, leading to multiple arrests and a significant media scandal. Meanwhile, my relationship with Lydia continued to grow. We spent more time together, and she became my anchor amidst the chaos. Her unwavering support and love made me feel stronger than ever. One evening, Lydia and I were having dinner at my apartment when my phone buzzed. It was a news alert. Curious, I opened it and saw a headline that made my heart race. "Local couple arrested in massive fraud and embezzlement scandal." The article detailed Elara and Jasper's arrest, the charges against them, and the evidence from the video. Their smug faces were now plastered all over the news, and their downfall was public and humiliating. Lydia looked at me, her eyes filled with concern. "How do you feel?" I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of closure. I feel vindicated. They're finally facing the consequences of their actions. As the days went on, the scandal grew. Elara and Jasper's trial was a media sensation. I attended the trial, watching as they were both found guilty on multiple counts. Elara's tearful pleas for leniency fell on deaf ears, and they were both sentenced to significant prison time. The satisfaction of seeing them punished was a strange mix of relief and emptiness, but it also allowed me to fully move on. A year later, Lydia and I stood together at the grand opening of the new wing of the Valtieri Gallery. She had asked me to join her as a partner in the gallery, combining our strengths and passions. It was a new beginning for both of us. As we mingled with the guests, Lydia squeezed my hand. "You've come a long way, Spencer. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks to you," I said, kissing her cheek. "I couldn't have done it without you." Just then, I noticed Jenna among the guests. She approached us, a tentative smile on her face. "Spencer, Lydia, I'm so glad I could make it." "Jenna, thank you for everything," I said sincerely. "Your decision to send that video changed everything." Jenna smiled, relief evident in her eyes. "I'm just glad I could help. You deserve happiness, Spencer." As the evening went on, I felt a profound sense of peace. The past was finally behind me, and I had a future to look forward to, one filled with love, art, and new beginnings. And as I looked at Lydia, I knew that together, we could face whatever came our way.